Hey guys, this is V-Man from No Budget Productions, and we are doing another Constar commentary. This week we are doing Dive. So, so this film started off as a couple of years ago. I had wanted to do a fan film at Aries Studios with Alec, and had the script all written up and everything. And then COVID happened, and so this script is kind of the took bits and pieces and was the remnants of kind of that script, um, but more of told of what if that script had happened and then they got back, after that script had happened and whatnot. So you get to see bits and pieces of what had happened in that script, told more from Garth's perspective, and Starfleet kind of going, what the hell, So you do see the Constar flying up to the Ares, and you see future Menard right there, and you see bits and pieces of that adventure, like at some future point. You see Mitchell, you see, bits and pieces of that conversation, whatnot. So yeah. So, like I said, we were supposed to film. Then COVID had happened and everything, and we just simply weren't able to go. The pandemic was a huge part of all of our lives, and that script just kind of got put on hold. But I wanted to work with Alec, but more importantly, um, you know, Steven Jensen was, there he is, good old Steven. He had wanted to work with me, and we had kind of talked back and forth a little bit on what was available. He had said he had the Admiral uniform and whatnot. And, I got to thinking, I was like, what could we do? And I thought, well, what if we told the story of, what if we kind of told that, earlier story, and then him getting back. In the original story, what was supposed to happen was Garth and the Ares was supposed to go to the future in that cloud, and Garth was supposed to. It was very much kind of like in yesterday's Enterprise, where they go to the future and they realize that they've got to go back to the past to fix things. In our story, the future wasn't changed. It was very much the future that was supposed to happen, except time was kind of fracturing. Um, the Constar sees the Ares inside this nebula looking thing, and Menard realizes who it is. He's the only one on the ship that realizes. I mean, of course, other people realize the historical context, whatnot, but Menard realizes from a personal perspective, the importance of Garth going back. So he beams over, and they have a heart to heart, and he talks to Garth, and he's like, "Look, one day you're going to be important. Like this you're needed for history." And it very much is like Picard talking to Guinan in the episode, I forget the episode of Next Gen, but it's one where Data's head's underneath San Francisco. But it's that one where Picard finally meets Guinan, and it's, kind of full circle. But Menard talks to Garth, and he's like, "Look, you you don't really know me at this point, but I know you." And it's a very similar moment to that. And I'm going to go ahead and pause right here because there's so much more to talk about on these other actors. But he talks to Garth, and he's like, "Look, you don't really know me, but I know you, and you helped my career going forward. But, more than historical context, personal context you've got to go back. Time, not only is, time fracturing it, but, in the here and now, but you've got to go back. So that pushes Garth to go back to regular time. And that's where this story kind of picks up, where Garth's talking to Starfleet going, look, I don't really know what I saw. I don't really know what happened. And I don't know how to explain these things that I saw. And so Starfleet's kind of going, look, we don't have a Constitution class ship out that far. We don't have, there is no Captain Menard out that far. Because given the fact that we couldn't tell the whole story, I wanted to leave it more of a mystery of like, maybe Garth doesn't really know that he was in the future, or exactly where he was. Because given the fact we couldn't tell that story, I couldn't go as in depth, and I didn't want to confuse the audience as much. I figured we'll just give them enough of the story to where the audience knows, but maybe Garth doesn't know. But had I been able to tell that story, there would have been no doubt that Garth knew he was in the future. But that was what the original story was. It was a, hey, you have a destiny, and you're going to be needed, so you need to go back. And then when he gets back to the past, he would have seen Menard, in the mullet, and been like, oh, I know you. Let me take you under my wing. And that would have been the start of the Menard and Garth relationship. So it would have been something much, much different than what we got here. But given the fact we were never able to tell that story, this was our way to do something a little bit more fun with everybody involved. And this is a very fun film. We have Matt Wise. If you've seen Egotastic Trek, this guy does not take himself seriously in any way, and he is pure fun. Every one of his films is a pure romp through not only Trek but just geekdom in general. Fun describes him to a T, and I think he did really good. He cheesed it up very well for this film. But I loved being able to bring him in. I wanted to work with him. I met him down in Star Trek Las Vegas when I spoke down there at the convention. Just like that was the first time I met Steven, personally. I met both these two gentlemen down there, but I really was happy to get them both in a film before I retired. And I think they both did really well, especially playing off each other. Most people don't realize that in the Combox films, like, these people have never met, never interacted, never rehearsed, but they played very well against each other, And this story pretty much weighs on Steven's back. If he doesn't, if he doesn't, if the audience doesn't buy Steven's character, Admiral Slater, then the story just simply doesn't work. And he did really well in this film. And he, given the fact that he didn't meet any of us on the, to rehearse any of this, I think he did really, really well. So there comes my good buddy Frank, of the USS Dominion, and the good old Elvis hair. Now, I won't say who that is parodying, but I'm sure those of you in fan films know. If you know. But that was an inside joke with me and Frank that we wanted to do, because we were like, fuck it, if we're doing the mullet, we might as well do the Elvis wig as well. And I think Frank pulls it off wonderfully. There's an inside joke with Slater and Frank about, what would he do if he lost his gorgeous head of hair? A wonderful jab at Frank being bald, just like I am. If you can't poke fun at yourself, then what's the point? But it's Frank did really good here, being um, I think first officer of the Dominion at this point because it's so early in the career of Grissom. So of course you're seeing everybody in the early days of uh, you know the their Starfleet careers, and I thought this was really fun. Um, to see everybody, seeing everybody in their uniforms and seeing everybody in those early days. And of course, from their perspective, it's quite normal to see Grissom with the full head of hair. And again, Steven's playing everything straight, because he's trying to get to the bottom of the mystery that Garth has laid in front of him. And yeah, it's this is the background that I had put for Stephen was, hold on, let me let my dogs out, guys. The background. Yeah, my alarm's going off here. So the background that I have for Stephen is some. It's a reference to time travel in a movie, and some people picked up on that. I don't know the movie right offhand, but someone had volunteered that. They were like, "Hey, this would be a nice reference for a time travel background if you're ever doing one." And I held on to it, and I thought, "Oh, this would be a great one." Even though the people are kind of frozen, walking in place, they're not moving. But I love the nod to old sci-fi stuff and old references, So, but I loved this scene because again, we're seeing old time Grissom, and we're seeing him on the Dominion. Again, this is pre. This is pre-battle with the Romulan Grissom, a younger Grissom. This is building, world building these characters, and in a lighthearted film. And I really like that, and I appreciated the opportunity to get to kind of play with these characters in a more satirical way than we've gotten to before. Because usually Menard films are kind of dark and brooding, and and that certainly is not this film. So there I am, and in probably the wackiest role that I've ever played Menard in. This is I actually had to comb my hair because to be the Billy Ray Cyrus mullet, it didn't do it quite for me, so I had to comb it a little slightly off to the side to kind of match how I had my hair in high school, because I wanted it to feel like me, and but God damn it, that mullet looks so good. It looks so natural. It matches my hair, and it's scary cool how good it looks on me. But I love how I was able to convey the nerdiness of the character, because he's not the competent engineer that we know from the Valiant, or the commanding captain that we know from the Constar. Like he's a rookie, he doesn't fucking know anything. He's just like, oh man, I don't want to be talking to this dude. I gotta, man, I gotta go. I had a milkshake. I'm gonna shit my pants. It's funny, and I'm not one for bathroom humor or shit jokes or anything. I think it's the lowest form of humor, and I'm not one for that. But I felt like this was appropriate here. It's one of the only times that I've ever reached for that type of joke, just because I felt like it was appropriate to kind of go all out for this character. I figured why not, and I felt like it was appropriate for for this. I love the way Stephen plays for it. Like, I don't want to hear this shit. Just go, fucker. It's good fun, man. Um, so I love kind of you can feel the tension from Garth, um, of the stress of like, he's trying to plead with the Admiral and the Admiral's trying to get to it. You can almost feel the tension between the two characters of one person's desperately trying to understand, the other person's desperately trying to explain, and neither one of them are really on that level with the other. And at the end of the conversation, like we're not left with the two characters connecting. Um, and I find that really sad because both characters are, there's good old Captain Mitchell, and that's a nice reference to the original film where Mitchell helps Menard with the time stream, because he's kind of the outside source where Menard's talking and going, "What the hell is happening outside this nebula?" And Mitchell's going, Mitchell of the Splashdown is talking to Menard, going, "Dude, everything out here is fucking shifting, changing, whatever's going on in there. Like, it needs to be fixed." And Menard's like, "Okay, we need to send the Ares back." So he's kind of pivotal to that script. So that was my nod there. And of course, you can't really grasp that here, but you grasp enough that Mitchell was there. But I find the ending sad because you do know that, like, the punishment for Garth is going on the mission that he's supposed to go to, where he kind of snaps, and Garth's not happy about this. And I really wanted to allude to that this might have been part of the stuff that makes him snap. Because again, like, full circle stories, I feel are really good and worth telling. Cause and effect in storytelling. And I think everybody in this film did a really, really good job of conveying what they were supposed to. It's very much this guy leads to the next, and then this guy leads to the next, and all of them are planting the seeds for something else. And by the end of the story, like, everything was important, everybody was vital. Like, we didn't send anybody in there that wasn't needed, and everybody played their part. Everybody was a cameo, but they were all needed for the story. And I really enjoy those type of mystery stories. And again, at the end of it, like, Starfleet's not any wiser for what happened. And it probably was filed away under, WTF and left at that. But there's a bigger mystery there that is probably solved in the 24th century with Menard going, "Yeah, this is what happened," And again, it's just one of those things where it makes the Garth character a little bit more tragic. Because this is probably one of the things that led up to him snapping, is not being believed by Starfleet and then kind of brushed off, and you can only take that so much. So I really enjoyed this film because, for all the lightheartedness, there is so much more depth there. So there's USS Odyssey, and this is the Star Trek Picard era. And this is the scene that we shot, Royce and I did. Both of us are using the same green screen at two different times. And Royce had a lot of fun doing this. I loved being able to pretend like he was Cadet. He loved being Cadet. And that comm badge that he's wearing is from Trek Yards. So thank you, Trek Yards, good old Stewart, Captain Foley, and the comm badge I'm wearing as well. Like, they sent me quite a few of those, actually, that I needed for my films, because I wanted some to finish shooting, and they sent me quite a few, and they were able to accommodate me for what I needed. So I was like, man, I'm just going to go ahead and go, just put these in as much as I can. So Royce got to use one. I used another. And that is a good friend of mine from the Raincross series. Uh, and their series is coming out. They have one film already on the channel, but they are doing an entire series that'll also be released on the channel. And they have, oh hell, I think 3 seasons worth shot, and they're going in for 4 seasons now. And I really wanted to, whenever I'm working with somebody, I really want to be as inclusive as I can. And this is the first time that I actually got to work with him. I've been on his podcast, Smoking with Frogs. Charming guy. But they have done so much shooting, and they're so far ahead in terms of storytelling and production stuff and the scope of their films. It's I really can't wait for you guys to see what they have coming. But he's a really good, talented actor. He does a lot of cosplay as pirates and whatnot, and he's one of those guys that as soon as he slips on into the role, like he's good to go. So it was really good to have explain like where did Menard's wife go, and kind of show the depth of Menard is not going to stay in Starfleet forever. Like if it came time between his son and Starfleet, he would pick his son and be on his way. And I was really setting up, I was gearing more toward my final film, and I really wanted to get to that point to show that Menard is he's kind of getting to that point where he's having enough. And this scene really elaborated that. Especially the fact that the Odyssey is just kind of sitting there in dry dock for no reason, enough to where, hey, my kid, go ahead and learn tactical. You might as well. We're just sitting here and there's nobody else on board. Like it's just us, and that was kind of the point. Like it starts off as a sweet scene between me and Royce, but it really is kind of showing, that it's just us. And it's because Starfleet has kind of stopped trusting us. And again, it's if you think about the cause of the problem, like why have they stopped trusting? And by the time you get to the final film, you start seeing that it's a larger problem with Starfleet. And I show that in the final film, that it's kind of the conspiracy. It's the conspiracy aliens that have returned. Because I really thought that it was important to go back to like why has Starfleet felt so off in the first 2 seasons of Picard, and even in in the 25 years jump between Next Gen, DS9, Voyager, and the Star Trek Picard era. Why is there such a jump in tone with Starfleet? And that kind of seems like now is like why, when you look back to the 90s to now, why is there such a shift in political tone? And the only way that I could really explain it was it's those conspiracy aliens, the one that took over half of Starfleet in fucking Remington. So this was the build up, that scene with me and the crew member from Raincross. Richard is his real name. That was my setup for that. So, but anyway, I hope you enjoyed the commentary for the fan film Dive. I hope you guys join us next week for another Constar commentary. I hope you enjoyed this one. It was real fun talking with you guys about this. With that being said, if you guys enjoyed the commentary here, please share it. Please subscribe to the channel. Give it a like, leave a comment. And let me know what films you guys want me to do a commentary on next. I do read all the comments. I try to leave a comment back when I can. But let me know which of my films you want me to do commentaries on next, because I do take all that into consideration. So with that being said, be genuine,
be safe, and keep on geeking on, guys.